Good evening, everybody. It is time for another night of Do You Think Tank? I am sorry about last night. My daughter was sick. I ended up being sick. I'm still sick. We're going to be going for an hour or two tonight, going over some conversations on the game. Del Morgan, thank you for the sub. And Dracosin, thank you for the follow. But we're going to be going over a few things tonight in the game, discussion about the game in regards to upcoming patches, changes to the core accounts of the orgs that came up after our last stream. We will be keeping a tighter rein on voice chat tonight. Try to keep it around 10 to 12 people. It got to be a bit much the other night with people talking over each other, a lot of crosstalk. Want to make sure I say, just so you guys are aware, for these streams, the Do You Think Tank, it's very important that we keep the conversation in chat and in voice constructive. It's okay to voice your frustrations. It's always okay to voice your concerns. But how they're voiced is what's important. If we voice things in a destructive manner, nothing will ever get done about it. One of the biggest things I was taught as a kid is if you come to somebody with a problem, also bring a potential solution. If you care enough to point out the problem, put some time and research into figuring out a solution, and a solution that's actually plausible. I think one of the easiest things to get into when it comes to games is, as a player, not understanding the concept of the amount of work that goes into what we're asking for. With this game especially, and the amount of cross connection and all the back end work that they have to do for every patch to do their best to make sure that it doesn't mess other things up and that it works with the game as it is. It's very easy for us to forget that that is a lot of work and that's a lot of hours that they're paying for. So when we come up with solutions and we come up with these propositions to the developers to make the game better, if we expect to be heard at the table, we need to take into consideration their side of the table as well. Only by working with both sides of the table in some kind of cooperative manner will anything get done. Grab one, exactly. So just keep that in mind with tonight's conversation, in-stream chat and everything, that the devs will be watching this, and they might not watch it tonight, but they will be going back and watching this. So make sure that the things that you're saying in chat tonight are things that you want them to hear in a constructive manner, and not things that are, harsh or disrespectful. So we're about to go ahead and get started. Drax, if you are there, go ahead and start dragging people down to the voice chat, and let's get this going.
Stormstill, why'd you force me to move you? Shit.
Okay, and like I said, please keep in mind tonight in this in-stream chat, if you're in the holding tank, you're welcome to hang out there and chat, but it doesn't necessarily mean I'll be able to bring you into chat. If there's something that you want to come in and make a statement about and then leave voice chat, that's fine. Let us know. We'll pull you down. We can discuss what you want to say, and then you can go back to the other chat. but we do have to keep a control on the main chat. Otherwise, this gets really unruly really quickly. Okay. And if I'm looking a little bit off tonight, I apologize. I've been very sick today, so that is what's going on.
Yeah, he's really on edge. He's already yelled at me twice since I've been in here.
I think you might find that one hard to believe. I don't yell at people. I don't have time for that. It takes too much energy. Nice. So we had a major victory from the last chat. They actually won up to what we asked for. What we were asking for would have given us 165 total cores per player, and they gave us 200 total cores per player, 100 to share with the org and 100 private cores, which actually says a lot about the fact that they were listening and they read. One of the biggest things most people don't realize is the current system in place. A single player with good organizational core skills could have 5 orgs at 275 cores for private use.
That's a lot of cores.
Yeah, that's a whole lot of cores. So that means, say there's, I'm just going to be optimistic, say there's 5,000 people active in the game. If every one of them took advantage of that, that's what? 275 times 5 times 5,000? That's
Man, why are you making us do
6,875 cores. So the new system, 275 times 5, that's 1,375 cores per person. The new system is going to corral the game into a different perspective to where they know that. I know, I'm just saying. I'm using it as an example. So the new system is going to hard cap it at 200 per player. That's honestly a really reasonable amount of cores per player. Mm-hmm. So if you have an org that's working together like we're going to have with XVX, we'll have plenty of cores for our organization. Our players will have plenty of cores to do what they need to. And it puts a hard cap on scalability for the servers and future projections for the game. It allows them to look at it and say, this is what our cost per player is.
And if I may, Serapis, from my prime concern the whole time was I run a solo org. How are they going to fix this in a way that helps me but doesn't break big orgs, which they're trying to fix in the first place? And this pretty much covers it, I think. As a one-man building operation, 200 cores is I can do that.
Yeah. We've had
it should be pretty manageable.
I mean, honestly, for my building needs, 100 cores is more than enough for me personally. Mm-hmm. Especially since I'll have XVX for buildings and stuff like that. One of the things I'm trying to do as a result of this, I'm trying to encourage the org to function as an organization. With XVX, I'm giving every member a large core at the city on things that they can have and do whatever they want to, or if they want to go vertical, add another core or whatever. So they can do industry in there, they can do, just residential, decorative, whatever. So it'll give them the ability to come here and be part of the group and make the city feel like it's actually living and being used.
One thing they need to do is work on putting the skill required for org owners to legates, not the individual players for the org cores. Well, that's the way it is currently. I believe That's what he's saying. It's currently that way. But the way they're trying to work it now is this will prevent people from making mass orgs.
Oh,
and just infinitely creating things.
Yeah, it
also gives.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sorry.
It prevents an individual
Right.
for mass spamming orgs with good skills, which is what we've run into. And I understand it's a leadership thing, but
Yes, they can. Rose.
Why don't we start this like we did last time? Read the dev blog on their response, and then we go from there.
that is a
Yeah.
very good idea. Hold on one second.
Here.
Give me 1 second to pull that up.
A whole second. We're not made of time, Serapis.
There we go. Okay, so he was actually he was actually a lot clearer and and the new dev blog was actually a lot easier to understand. Okay, I was very happy with that. The last dev blog was a little bit convoluted. It was a little bit hard to understand, and I think this one did a much better job at expressing exactly the information we need to know. Okay, so the dev blog goes on to say, following discussion around yesterday's dev blog, the community asked us to look over our figures to see what we could reliably sustain in terms of construct limits. In this communication, we want to take the opportunity to outline what we have decided to change from the previous dev blog, as well to explain some decisions such as the mechanics of construct abandonment. The biggest question everybody had was a lot of people were confused about the personal and org slots. And we said this several times in stream last night that they're very different things. The personal slots are personal and the org slots are org. They are two different things. Personal slots are yours and yours alone. You cannot give them away. You cannot transfer them. Org slots, you can assign them to any org, whether you're in the org or not. So like, say XPX, we have a large number of members, and we don't need all the org slots. You know, our org members are more than encouraged if they have, say, a streamer or a builder they want to support, to transfer their org slots, some of their org slots to them to help, you know, make sure that everybody in the game is well taken care of, especially those that are contributing to the community. Org slots can be assigned to any organization regardless of membership. So
that's actually a nice feature.
Yeah, that is kind of a nice feature.
You can give them a couple cores, just because they're a builder that you or an org that you like, and then you just want to be a part of that group.
Yeah.
Support your favorite
Now,
orgs.
Your organization slots cannot be assigned to other players, only organizations. Once assigned, they cannot be repealed from that organization for 30 days. Once repealed, the organization will have until the next bi-weekly construct check to make sure that it meets construct slot requirements. Now, keep in mind also, with the new UI system coming, there is a tab for construct slots. You will be able to see how many construct slots your org has and how many core availability you have. So it'll be a lot easier for you to mitigate things. Oh, Mattis Touch Industries is now hosting a stream with one viewer. Thank you for the host. Okay, we're at 11 of 10 on the studio now, so we're going to stick at that number for a while. I want to try to keep it around the 10 mark for the night, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But let me go back to the dev blog. So we had asked for what would have been 165 total slots. They ended up giving us 200. They put them with a set of tiered skills. 3 tiers of personal, 3 tiers of organization. Your organizational skills are going to be reset to 0, so you'll be able to use those skill points to reinvest in those and train those up. So the max you'll have is 100 personal, 100 organization with full maxed out skills. So you're going to have to train those up. But for the average player, it's not really going to be that big of a deal.
I don't think it will be a big deal at all.
No, I can see the average player probably stopping at level 4 on some of those skills, because they don't really need to go to the full 100. I mean, I can tell you right now that XVX will not need a lot of the core slots that'll be available to it. So I think that'll be I don't think that'll be as much of a hindrance as people would think.
And there's still going to be a lot of people out there who have alts and stuff are going to be tossing their alts into their own personal orgs.
Yeah.
And Jimmy trying to point out that apparently the timing could be griefed, but I believe they've got a failsafe for that, right?
Yeah, they're randomizing what gets removed.
Yeah.
So you could be waiting for a large core for freaking 2 weeks or whatever it is, or 3 weeks, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it drop a freaking XLs. It would undo an XL.
Hey, you could be sitting at the castle waiting for a large ship to be unclaimed, and all of a sudden it drops the outhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think he still falls back on that griefing where 3 or 4 people enroll alts into an org, give them 20 cores apiece, and that's 60 cores gone in 2 weeks that the organization has to scramble to put together. So it is still a form of griefing.
Well, that would only be effective really against smaller orgs, because I think with larger orgs it'd be just a simple case of asking a few members, hey, can you reassign a couple of cores here?
Right. I mean, if you're in an org, it's common sense. You get an org and you randomly get a couple cores from a couple people, and then all of a sudden you get a bunch of random cores. Don't count on them. Common sense.
Yeah, I mean, with the max core count being set at 1625 for an org, I can tell you right now, with XVX, we'll probably never use, if we get the 1625, I'll probably cap it or try to maintain it at 1400 or below, just to allow some leeway for that. 1400 cores in a single org is a lot of cores. That's going to be up to the responsibility of the super legate and legates to mitigate that. I mean, if you know that's a potential, don't max out your core count.
Well, okay, there's the way it is now, and the way I understand it, any member that's a part of my org could spawn a core into the game under my org. So the potential attack vector I see is I'm going to give your org a bunch of cores you don't normally have, and then I'm going to spawn hundreds of cores into your org, remove those core slots, and say, YOLO, have fun, bye.
That's not at all how it works. You have to have RDMS permission or be a legate to
No, you don't.
spawn cores. Oh, really? Any
you
member
can
of any org can spawn a core.
Yep, I can spawn a core under any org if I'm a member, and as soon as I said spawn core, I lose all rights to core. I can't go into build mode. I mean, I spawn a blank dynamic core and name it something different, but as soon as you hit OK, you lose all rights to it, and it's under that org's name, because I've done it before and had to get another alt who's the legate of that org to tokenize it and put it back in my personal org. So Blinding Bright is right. Somebody could go in, spawn a crap load of cores, leave the org, and then they would have to scramble. And say they put it under a tile that they own where that org can't get to it.
Well,
they bury it.
Well, no, as a legate, you'd still be able to go into the map and abandon it remotely, but it would add so much headache to have to do that.
Maybe you can have
like in the upcoming patch, they are adding a new UI specifically for being able to find your cores to track your own.
Maybe
cores.
you can mark them as priority cores.
I mean, my proposed fix for this is literally just add RDMS. Give me an RDMS policy to allow people to add cores to
Absolutely.
or
that's actually a very good suggestion.
I'm amazed that that's not already something in place.
Yeah.
The other option is in this core allocation screen is have simply a toggle that says accept core allocations or reject core allocations from outside the organization. It's a bit of a kind of broad sweep version of doing it, RDMS is a much better idea. But you've got to think that a lot of what you're suggesting is not currently in the gaming system. Having a toggle switch on a screen which has already been drawn is a fairly easy bit of dev work on the back end to put in.
Yeah. Now, as far as the RDMS thing wouldn't be that much of an issue, I don't think. Or even if you just set it up to where you have to have a particular, you have to be a legate to be able to put a core under the org name.
No, please, RDMS. Please, for the love of God, RDMS. I hate, as a legate of a bigger org, I do not like the fact that it's either a legate's ability or it's an RDMS policy, and there's a lot of legate abilities I wish I could give over to other people at times. And it's really frustrating when I'm not able to.
Giving us the ability to set member roles at a more finite level would be optimal, but short term, I think just the RDMS option or something.
Gotcha. So and that would help prevent the ability to weaponize.
But you still got to be able to get into a person's org, right? So even right now, that's still a potential issue, even without the update. So, you know, you still got to be careful of who you allow into your orgs, right?
It's more of an issue because now they're actively recruiting gameplay to grow your org if you want your org to grow and have community projects. Before it was, well, guys, I got to wait 30 days until this talent's done, and then we have 275 cores. Now we have to actively recruit or search for cores, to, if we want to grow said organization.
Yeah.
That's what they want. They want community. They want to build. They want, more teamwork.
And this is going to potentially more adversely affect larger organizations, which may not have such robust entry screening. It's a lot easier for smaller orgs because people, you typically invite your friends or people you've met through the game, social events, things like that. In larger orgs, they're just generally a lot more open. Just to get more people in, say we are now a big org, we can offer, large scale operations. Yeah, exactly. And then that's where this kind of infiltration will occur.
And it happens all the time. I mean, MTI has been incited. Most larger orgs I know of have been incited at some point. Even smaller ones, too. I mean, let's say you're a small org of like 10, 15 people, and then you're like, oh, I'm going to open recruitment. And all of a sudden you have like 6 people from a not-so-friendly group join your group. And then they all like, hey, we're gung-ho. And they all donate their time and resources and their org slots. And then they just completely take them all back after you've expanded. I mean, it's already an attack vector, which is why I say RDMS, because that way you have more fine control about who you give those rights over to.
Yes, and RDMS is on the actions of the organization legates, which means it's an active control that has to be given away. The current system of core allocation is completely on the player side, and the player side has the action power to affect this system, not the legates, which is my concern.
Yeah, well, at least if we got the policy set up to where the RDMS would prevent them from placing cores, that would be a big step in the way of giving the org some control over the scenario. They can't just join and do whatever they want to. Honestly, if I had that ability, I'd probably put it to where there was a certain time period you had to be in the org before you could place, and it wouldn't be just an automatic thing you would get.
Well, the good thing is that this is, I believe, a relatively easy way for NQ to implement this. I mean, we're not asking for a UI interface change. We're literally asking for the ability to have an on-off toggle via RDMS, which is something they already have in place in the game. So.
Yep. I think that would definitely be an easy thing for them to implement, and it's just like you said, it's a simple inclusion of an already existing system in the game. So. That could definitely go a long ways in regards to organizations feeling safer about recruiting people as well. Because with the existing system that's going to be in play, recruiting people can be a risk.
I mean, realistically, that's the only major issue I see, like as far as like hardline issues.
Yeah.
The only other thing is the artificial time gate NQ's added with it, which, you know, in order for me to get half of the cores I had before, I have to now wait months and months on end.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Well, I think what's most exciting about that for me is that there already is a skill for organization core count, and they've explicitly said that the reimbursement from that skill, so if you are someone who is specifically trained up for the purposes of being able to expand the core count of your org, you're not going to be anywhere near maximum cores, even though you've already invested all of those points.
Yeah.
And that doesn't seem right to me.
That is my biggest sticking issue. And the thing is for me is like, if you look at, because we've all been discussing the, you know, if we have max cores, so we explain, well, we get 100 here for personal and 100 there for orgs. That's awesome. But if it takes over a month to train from 80 to 125, it's probably going to take 4 months to train from 125 to 200.
Yeah.
Just knowing how NQ's getting it. I know how long it took me to get Org Construct 5 going, and that was insane. That was probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, skill sync I've had in the game. And the issue though with this is that people that have cores now that need to be saved can only save them after potentially waiting for all these skills to train.
Yeah.
After our stuff is going to be going abandoned.
Well, I can tell you now, the Advanced Construct Management Specialization Level 5 is a 29-day skill, and they are proposing to add another tier of skill level on top of that to get your maximum core count.
Yeah. Also, I can tell you, as someone who just rolled an alt literally 20 minutes ago, the time it takes to train up your personal core skills and the organization core skills that exist right now is 104 days. And they're telling us that that will give us 80 cores on the other end.
And so this is realistically, I think, the final, you know, issue with this whole shebang is that, yes, the 200 cores is great. I think largely all of us can agree that we can survive on the new core limits. It's just a matter of how the heck are we supposed to get to these core limits, and the fact that NQ has, you know, made it difficult. And I actually, wait, I shouldn't say this is the last issue. There's actually one other looming cloud. What's going to happen when I unsubscribe? If I unsubscribe, my stuff on Sanctuary stays there, right? My tile stays there. But what happens to my cores? Also, if I am not currently in the game when this update goes out and all my skills get refunded, what happens if I have cores on HQ tiles? Are those going to go abandoned because the skills didn't get retrained? Like, there's still some, like, hardline issues that NQ is going to have to navigate if this is going to be rolled out remotely smoothly.
That's a good question, though, right there. Because if someone hasn't been playing in a while, and they went, they went home tiled, and all their stuff is in their, a bunch of their cores are in their org, and this refreshes, then everything's going to get, unclaimed after, 3 weeks, because they're not back in order to reset it. So It's going to be another land claim again going.
So going by the dev blog, they say specifically, no construct will be subject to abandonment through the following mechanics for at least the first month after release. That means you've got at least 30 days before any of this kicks in. You will then have the 2 weeks it takes for the core check to tick over. You will then have 2 weeks after that before a core goes abandoned. So potentially 55, 60 days.
Yeah, they could have almost 2 months.
You got 2 months, so that's not bad timing. But
okay,
it's still gonna suck for some people.
Yeah, well, for example, there's one guy. So I was one of the people that spent 3 days around Christmas trying to go land grabbing. Mm-hmm. I grabbed some tiles. I have yet to tear anything down. A few of those tiles are from people that I respected in the game and was trying to save their stuff.
Right.
Like, the first place I got my first ship from, Feld, I saved that tile because I didn't want any of that to go, anywhere. So my point being, though, is that It took one guy 2 months to log back in, over 2 months to log back in. And I had his tile. He contacted me. He's like, wait a second. Why do you own my tile? What has happened? What is going on here? And like, update happened. Once I can verify that you own it, I'll give it back. I verified it was him. I gave the tile back. And there's going to be a lot of other people that are going to just log back in like 3 months after this change. And after their stuff has been HQ'd and they got burned out with Demeter, and they're going to be like, where'd all my stuff go?
Yeah.
What just happened? Like,
well, I hate to say this and being like a devil's advocate on this one. This, in any other survival style game, you're lucky if you have 7 days of an activity before your stuff is despawned. You know, that's a pretty common thing in any survival environment. Most games, a lot of the space games, stuff like the Empyrean, Space Engineers, all those like that, the servers all have decay timers. You know,
right?
your stuff
but Dual
disappears.
Universe is never billed as a survival game.
Mm-hmm.
But one
it's
aspect
promoted. It's promoted as a persistent universe.
Yeah, but that is one aspect of it. It is, you know.
No. I've never seen survival as a pillar of Dual Universe. When has NQ ever said in any marketing, promotional, or even hinted at that Dual Universe was a survival game like any of those other ones that you've mentioned?
Space Engineers is not a survival game; it's a build game, kind of like this game.
Yeah.
And they do despawn things.
What I'm saying is, you start off on a planet with nothing. You build up and do what you got to do. That's whether they call it that or not. That is the essence of what any other survival game is.
That's the essence of a persistent universe.
Yeah, it's just the way it is. Any other game out there, period, that's a kind of an open universe like this, you know, where you have assets that are open and consider what would be considered server side assets, things that actually cause, you know, an increase on server utilization, have decay timers.
Right.
The fact that they have not had decay timers up to this point has surprised me. If they would have started the game with decay timers, nobody would be complaining right now. It'd just be part of how it is.
Yes, it would.
But is this a persistent universe, or is this just a survival sandbox?
A persistent universe is what it is, but at the same time, we have to understand that everything we build in this game, they're paying for. And if you're not active, and you're not paying for your subscription, and you're not playing the game, you know, at some point, you become a loss of investment to them that becomes detrimental to the other players.
Let's talk up here and say, let's go back to the original point, because we're getting a little derailed, and I don't want to derail the conversation. My original point is that there could even be a paying customer, and you could be paying NQ monthly, be away for 3 months, come back, and with this change, your stuff would still go unclaimed if you didn't come back.
Yeah.
Right.
Dual Universe is a persistent universe, right? But it's also an evolving sandbox. And I understand that it could potentially hurt people's feelings to come back to a game and have everything gone. We that have played this game for a long time have started over multiple times, and it sucks every time, but you get better and you get more efficient. It's part of
can
it.
I add something into your
Please.
the unclaiming stuff? So one thing that will negate that, yes, people coming in will have issues, but down the line, once that gets over with, it won't be a worry for just a normal player that, you know, who's been enduring this. You know, for the initial people will have problems, but down the line, the solution would be you're just moving all your cores over to your private personal things, and you won't lose those cores. It's just anybody using orgs will have the issue, and yes, the issue is still going to persist at the beginning, but once everyone gets released and people start, you know, moving things over, that will be the solution for not have to worry about losing your stuff.
Arcadio actually makes a good point. If this would have been a normal beta for any other company, we would have wiped multiple times by now. I mean, look at Star Citizen. How many times have they wiped? I mean, any other game out there has wiped multiple times during their alpha and beta. So just the fact that we haven't been wiped yet has been amazing. I don't even know how they've been able to do that from a programming aspect.
Like, honestly, that's probably the hugest tech debt they've taken on, because they've done multiple things to go out of their way to try to keep it persistent without wiping.
Yep.
So
Constantly changing and constantly evolving the game and trying to balance things out without wiping everything in the game.
And that's really, I mean, like, unfortunately, that's also part of why we're kind of in the scenario we're in now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Sort of the other shoe is kind of dropping.
If we all started this game today, with the changes that are coming out, we would just, that's what the game is now.
Oh, Mega Boss Lord, thank you for the gifted subs, brother. But as far as the longevity, if we want this game to survive in any kind of long distance time frame, we're going to have to realize that there has to be a pruning of assets in the server from people that aren't active. Whether they're paying or not is really irrelevant. If the stuff isn't being used after a certain period of time, it just becomes dead weight to the server, and in some ways it's actually detrimental to the active players, because it just causes more lag and more issues with the server when it doesn't need to be there. And I hate saying that, but it's the harsh reality of it.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
If they're having these issues now, and we're in beta, what's to stop this from happening when they go to full launch?
Well, that's the reason why they're doing this, is to make sure that they're able to. The whole point of this situation is they're trying to put a defined amount per cores per player to properly scale the servers and set their budget in stone, because the way it's set up right now, it's very difficult for them to scale their budget per player for their servers. And right now, one of their biggest outputs of money, one of their biggest costs every month is just bandwidth usage on the server. They go through a lot of server bandwidth.
And so right now I feel like the topic is really heavily geared, and I mean, Ami brought up right the point of coming back to the game and having lost all your stuff because of this random core loss, right?
Mm-hmm.
So who is prone to that? People who have a metric, or who have like a personal org that's storing, a ton of cores, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's like, well, and who are currently inactive. And so, so I feel like that's a very small, I mean, I'm not saying those people aren't going to suffer, but that seems to be that would be a small percentage, right? You have the large active orgs who are going to have to put work into reorganizing and getting people to take these skills, and it's going to be work, but they're active to do it. And then you have other smaller individual players, solo org players, who take the skills upon themselves, or have few enough cores in the first place that the personal skills are fine because they're not running a large operation. They're just happy doing their mining thing or their mission running, right? Yeah. And so I feel like the cross section of that Venn diagram of people who have too many cores, who are active, and who are not like reliant, whose cores aren't reliant on a large org that other people are a part of. I feel like it's a very small cross section.
And a lot of players right now have not been in for a very long time. Most of their stuff's already gotten cleaned up. Unless they had a factory,
exactly.
Because they already got hit with the first round, unless they got autoed. But they only did 5 autoed, and if they had massive amounts of cores everywhere else, they got unclaimed. So the only thing they're looking at right now would be their main, manufacturing tiles or whatever right now.
I'd be very careful about
if they got wiped, their other stuff got wiped, then they're most likely not coming back anytime soon.
I'd be very careful about thinking that the number of tiles that people own is correlated to the number of constructs they own. I think the vast majority of tiles that we saw get purged recently was being held because of Meganades.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and they were just empty tiles. They didn't have any constructs on them.
I was actually trying to refer to more of the constructs that were on some of the tiles that were taken.
Yes, that's true. I mean, there are simply going to be people that were not available to, either switch their HQ tiles or just not active in the game anymore, and their tiles just, dropped. I think it was potentially a mistake to auto HQ so many tiles for people that a lot more constructs would have gone abandoned, and maybe the situation would not have arisen if they had only done, the 2 or the top 3 populated tiles for people. It's a mute debate really, because it's already happened.
Well, I think the situation of trying to mitigate future core limits per player would have still been there. I just think that it wouldn't have been as urgent. Because when it comes down to it, their biggest thing right now, I have to wonder from a financial point of view how many of their investors are looking at them like, well, where's my return? We need to see some kind of hard numbers, and with the way things were before, it was probably very hard for them to do that. As a financial investor,
I don't think any investor would be. They'd be dumb as an investor to think that they're going to return during the beta. I don't think any of them expect that.
No, but they need some kind of perspective of it. They need a projection of return.
Well, yeah, they're going to need to know that when they go live. And this isn't just like, I see the need for the core limits. I do. I have nothing against them at this point, besides the fact that it's hard to get to that end goal of where I personally need to be to not have my stuff disappear. But I understand the rock and hard place. But there's realistically one of the biggest core issues I think hasn't really been talked about, is that with any other MMO that I've ever played, I've been able to take a break and then come back to it and not have all my stuff just disappear. Like there needs to be a way for you to be able to locker your constructs to some degree,
right?
To where if you're going to take an extended break, you can put them away.
Sanctuary, if you're active in game.
Not necessarily. Not with this current system. Not with this current system.
Because if they're in your org and you on Sanctuary and you go disappear, the org gets reset.
But isn't that part of their game loop salvaging? So, yeah, if you're not playing, your stuff goes abandoned. They include salvage in the game loop. They want salvaging. That's what they sell this game as. You can go out, search, and salvage. So, yeah, it's a player-based created content. So, yes, you're creating salvage too.
Yeah.
But then also with what they're changing is by giving us more personal cores, you can actually give yourself at least a base minimum of things to come back to that will be protected. You have 5 HQ tiles, you have 100 personal constructs. You can have a single personal org with however many slots you want to assign to it. Okay, it's a bit of a faff, but if you know you're going to leave, you transfer as much as you can into your personal org and you save that amount. As long as your subscription is paid, your stuff will be fine in those two situations, in personal constructs and in personal org constructs, as long as they're on HQ tiles as well.
I think if you're on Sanctuary, even if you're unpaid, if personal orgs, did they say anything about personal org getting wiped when you're away unpaid? I thought it was only orgs, but personal cores.
So an org would only be disbanded automatically when the last legate subscription is terminated.
All right, so that's orgs.
Yeah, and that means
all your personal cores on Sanctuary, if your count goes unpaid, those are just going to sit there.
Yeah,
you'll never lose those personal cores on Sanctuary because you won't lose Sanctuary tile, and you'll always keep that. So if you're going away for a while,
you'll always keep your HQ tiles until you'll always keep your Sanctuary tile until you go unsubbed. As I understand the current mechanics, the NQ have been kind of tight-lipped about
the last
what
time
happens
NQ
to that.
Talked about the HQ tiles. They left it open that they may change it in the future if you unsubscribe. Your HQ tiles may go unclaimed. And that, it's okay, but still at some point though, even if I have all that stuff on Sanctuary, from NQ's perspective, if people are flying over it or if it's near anybody, it's still data that's being pulled consistently. if they had a way to store my constructs while I'm not here and paying them, because cold storage is really freaking cheap. It's the server cost of running an active bandwidth that's killing them. If they could just cold store my stuff while I'm away and I can come back to it, that'd be great. But as a content creator, what's happening right now is NQ is literally holding my content hostage and saying I have to keep paying them to keep having access to it, or it's going to be gone forever. And they changed the deal, in my opinion. That's not what I signed up for.
Okay, the recourse of that is, as a content creator, you have access to take blueprints of your stuff. There's potentially things that you've bought from other creators as well. Okay, fine. They potentially are going to be lost. But you will always have the potential to have blueprints of your things, your particular things, in your nanopack. Your character is persistent, and even if you go unsubscribed, as far as I understand, your character is still preserved. So if you resubscribe into your character will still persist.
No, you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. I think there's... Okay. From that perspective, you're saying I need to tear down 200 plus of my cores, put all my schematics in my nanopack, take a blueprint of everything, spend almost probably 200 plus hours deconstructing all my stuff before I'm allowed to take a break from the game without losing anything? No. I'm just saying that's the way it currently is. That's the way it currently is.
Oh yeah, I agree. That is the way it currently
problem.
is.
It is
a problem.
Yes,
because
actually...
I took a break in early 2021 for 3.5 months. If I did that now,
that's actually like EVE Online is exactly the same way. If you live anywhere but safe space and you plan on taking a break, you have to move all of your assets to safe space and clear out everything from anywhere but safe space.
Yeah, but this is safe space.
Yeah.
What I'm just saying is, if you play it like EVE, if you play EVE on any kind of level other than just popping rocks in the safe zone and minimalistic interaction, if you're a content creator, you're going to be in nullsec, you're going to be in wormholes and lowsec and doing all these other things that allow that. And in order for you to take a break from that game, if you leave your stuff there, it's gone. You've lost it.
I think,
unfortunately, I have
long-term...
HQ tiles, and I have, lived in safe space. And when I joined the game, I could take a break. And like I said, it's changed now.
Originally, the only thing that was supposed to be safe was Sanctuary.
All right. Well, when I joined, the safe zone was much bigger.
That changed with beta, and so the ground rule was established at that point.
I'm just saying, is originally as far as like unclaiming and all this stuff like that, originally the only place that was supposed to be safe that you didn't have to worry about anything was Sanctuary, and that was the reason why they set up Sanctuary. That's the whole purpose of Sanctuary. So if you have anything anywhere other than Sanctuary, the assumption that it would be forever safe is kind of on you. They never made that promise.
I would like to see a cold storage system sometime in the future.
Yeah.
To allow people for a long time disconnect or something like that, because life happens. I would like to see that eventually.
We were talking about this the other day of the expanding the key construct compactification. So as long as you had storage volume somewhere, probably Sanctuary, and enough cores to house that storage on Sanctuary, you should be okay. But as Blinding Bright said, the massive faff of having to pull everything down and hoping that you have blueprints for everything that you've got as it stands now is a non-starter. Yeah, you're going to spend the next month doing that in order to take the next month off. The only way to address that is what we were talking about the other day, is expanding that construct compactification.
Yeah.
See,
I've already started. I have a warehouse that I keep on my Sanctuary tile. It's a private core, and all it is just a storage facility. It's one large core, and it's a storage facility. And I've kept that there since I set down my Sanctuary tile way back when. because that was always my fear. Is I know how game development goes, and I know how server management goes, and I knew that at some point they were going to get to the point where they had to get a handle on things. That was just the logic in my head. I mean, common sense told me that they're not going to be able to support this endless amount of cores on an indefinite basis. I've dealt with too many other servers running them myself, and seeing how quickly a database and bandwidth grows if you just let it free roam. So that was something I've been working to mitigate for a long time.
Just at this point in the conversation, I would like to remind everybody that as it stands, when this hits, that the in the equipment the current like core acquisition skills, the personal core acquisition skills are being changed to increase, right? So those are all going to get bumped up, as well as adding that third tier. And then you're going to, if you have organization construct management, you're getting refunded those points to put into new cores. So I just like want to remind everybody as they're talking about like, oh, when this patch hits, I have 30 days or I'm fucked. But I want to remind people that you can train those skills now. And the personal core ones, if you're not a big org person, or if you're also hoping to help your org out, start training organization construct management, bank those points, and then you'll get them back and you can put them into the new ones.
Yeah.
And so you can already start preparing for this. It's not whenever it hits, you have 30 days or else, like we have right now. Like you can start planning now, and they've already expanded, and hopefully they'll be able to start. Hopefully some other things will come out along with it that makes this easier, because as great as the expanded cores is, what we're talking about now is the other stuff, right? The unforeseen consequences to the player base. So we got the cores expanded, yay. And so it's like, yeah, we're talking about unforeseen consequences to player base now, but just keep in mind, guys, everyone trying to kind of doomsday out there, that you can start preparing right now. I already am. Someone else in the chat just made an alt, right, and queued up 104 days of skills to get all of the current stuff, right?
Yeah, but to be fair, 104 days is probably a heck of a lot longer than it's going to be before that patch hits. So I know that alt is going to be able to support less than 80 cores.
Most people don't need all those skills either.
And can we just say he has an alt now just for core slots?
Which
What
in and
the
of itself, yeah, it's sort of right, which gets into a whole nother pay to win conversation, but
like
maybe we don't go there.
So even with 3 accounts, even with them giving me those initial cores, and I have 2 of those accounts tripped to max org slots, I will not have enough by the time that they say within their timelines to keep everything that I currently have in the game with 3 accounts. Meanwhile,
cores?
I have 5 and I'm in the same boat.
No. I'm saying okay, by the time the stuff starts going abandoned, each of those accounts, well, 2 of them will be able to have 125 cores each by Deckard's approximation. One of them should be able to get up to about 80. I will have to give up stuff. I have a huge showroom. I have auto miner fields. I have outposts set up for the mission system. This is stuff that I've built. I've personally built. I put into the game. So even with those 3 accounts, I'm going to have to downsize.
And there are no other players like benefiting or supporting you in that endeavor?
Most of it's all me. Like Hagbird, for example, he has has many different projects. He's going to also have to downsize. Like it's hitting the most prolific creators in the game the hardest. And when your game is based off of people creating your game, there's potential issue with that.
Right. I feel you there, and you're right. I'm not saying that you're wrong or that that's not an issue, but I think their intent is that like the sense of community thing that we kind of were talking about earlier, that like there should be players supporting you guys in that, ideally, and being a part of that.
Do you remember 0.23? Do you remember losing like 70% of your player base and your friends in the game that just abandoned you and left?
No.
Okay, well I did, and I experienced it.
I lost them all through the schematics.
Okay, so if you have 30 org members at 50 cores per member org wise, that's 1,500. If you have 10 at 50 per, that's 500 cores.
I think we need a better sense of what the low end of these
You know,
numbers
I
looks
don't
like
know.
for that, because like I don't know how much training it's going to take to get to those 50 cores. Like we know,
Yeah,
we
the
know
50 cores,
we've been
that's like a month and a half or so, or maybe a little
The
more.
50 cores is the first, the lower skills. The last 50 is the last skill.
Right.
Yeah, that's
So the
fair.
first 2 tiers, the first like 10 levels, gets you to 50 of whether that's personal or org. I believe is the case.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
we all can
That's
agree.
probably about a
Arch,
month and a half of training for each of those.
So
think we
10
can all agree,
people
Arch.
get you to 500.
Yep. That what's happening right now is us preparing for future launch. That's what we're doing right now. Is yes, it's a test. We're testing it, but if what happens right now does not work, it needs to be adjusted. That's the whole point of us testing it.
Well, no, I mean you've got to differentiate
comes
between steady state, which
Mhm.
is what's going to happen in 2 or 3 months' time. How are we going to have balanced our core
Mhm.
requirements? The problem is the transition, especially for people like Hadbar, for people like
Yes.
Zoe,
Yes, it
is
is.
they have inventory that they are not going to be able to support during the transition unless they get very lucky on the generosity of other players. The
Exactly.
problem with that is how many players are going to stick around to be that generous.
Well, I think with the potential of 100 personal cores, even if you just have the first 3 skills and you have the 50, you're going to find a lot more people more willing to do that and be generous. Where they had left it at the 25 personal cores max before, that would have been a lot harder to sell. But
Yes,
with
very
that
much so.
change, it's going to be a lot easier to encourage players to say, hey, can you put 10, 15 cores towards org, even 20 maybe? Like, I know I've had several people, like, 1, 2, I think, just out of the close people in my org, I'm looking at 14 accounts. And my org's not that huge. I don't have that massive of an org. People might think I do, but
let me differentiate. Me as a creator in the game, I have my personal projects, which is Bright Industries, my org, my personal org, my personal projects. Then there's MTI. My personal stuff is kind of screwed. MTI as a group, I have a group of like 10 people.
Like you have multiple creators in the game in this channel. We get that concept.
Well, no, I'm saying small orgs are gonna be okay. MTI as an org is fine. I was just trying to make a differentiation that small orgs with small groups of people are okay. It's the prolix solo creators that are gonna be hurt. And I'm just wondering, what is the solution to that? Is there a solution to that?
I mean, that's on me. I will easily build 50 to 100 ships a week.
Yeah.
And that's something I've always had to mitigate. A lot of them are just blueprints sitting in a box because I don't keep the crap out there. And that's something I've always had to be responsible to my members for. If I want to sit there and build like crazy, I build like crazy, but I put the stuff away because I have a responsibility to the members of my group to make sure those cores are available for what's needed for the org. That's a responsibility of leadership.
No,
That's true.
I think you're not understanding what I was saying. Never mind.
She was talking about her own personal org,
Her
not
own personal
MTI.
org.
She was talking about Blinding Bright.
Yeah, it's in the transition. People like Hagbard and
Like myself.
individual
I have
creators, they're going to
private org.
they're going to have to go essentially scrounging for org core slots. And what are the avenues available to those people in order to get out to the player base, get in front of the player base, and say, I need your generosity for org slots in the transition, or
I think it will definitely
more
be a
permanently.
transition.
Yeah, it will be a transition.
We will have to. It's going to be difficult to begin with, and I think we can all, we agree with that. It's going to be a pain in the ass, and we're going to have to figure out how to do it. But it is going to have to take some of the player base in the community, which thankfully we don't have a terrible community. We have a pretty good community, and if you got groups of people who, for instance, like Hagbard, who need some cores, even I wouldn't be, even I would be willing to help him out with some cores in order to do it, to help people like that out who needs it, till he's able to resituate it. If a call goes out to anyone who, let's face it, if someone has that many cores, they're not just a nobody. Everybody's going to know them. I mean, if you see someone who has hundreds of ships, they're like, yeah, I know that guy.
Yeah. Well, what I was saying was, with this change, part of my responsibility is all of my org slots are going into XVX. Period. I'm going to make sure that my personal ones are up to full 100 as soon as I can, so I can put my personal projects in that 100. But I have a responsibility to my members. And to lead as an example, my org slots go to XVX. That's just the way I'm treating it. That's a personal choice I'm making. I understand that. But in any game I've ever played where I've been leadership, like in EVE, I was the executor of a 3,500 man alliance. My alliance came first. I took care of them before I took care of myself. That's just the way I was raised to do things. And I know as a builder, I go stupid with it sometimes. Drax has seen me knock out 4 or 5 ships in a day. Easily. And I always tear them down. It's just, I have to be responsible with that. And also I have to be responsible to the game. I want this game to survive. And knowing that this game won't survive if it's not managed correctly and the resources are not managed correctly, I take that as a personal responsibility too. I want the game to live. And if the game doesn't live because they bend over backwards to give me what I want because I demand it, then what's the point? I lose the game anyway.
Yep, for sure.
Long term of the game is what's important, and we have to figure out if we want the game to last a long amount of time or to give us exactly what we want now. And unfortunately, a lot of times those are not going to be the same thing.
No, it's true. Now, the thing that I'm asking for is that NQ is going to supposedly give us the 200 cores. If I could get access to that now versus when my stuff goes abandoned, that's fine. In the meantime, I might have to ask for donations, which is really unfortunate that, that brunt is passed on to other people. But yeah.
It would be nice if we had the new tier skills in advance of the update, so we get that jump, so we don't have to worry about having enough core slots at the time they put the abandonment mechanic in.
That's a good idea.
Honestly, I would be happy if they implemented a situation where they just changed the names on the existing skills to reflect what we're doing and just added new ones, or if they were going to give more ones and just transfer it all in. Don't give me the points, just transfer it over to the existing things and a fluid transition.
Randu Rage
might
made
be
a
asking
good point.
too much.
He said Deckard has stated multiple times it isn't set in stone when the core limits will be turned on. They could still give more time than what they said they are planning.
Yes, true. And it's probably going to be down to us asking, can we have that more time to ensure that people, it is a relative edge case. I'm not going to kind of beat around the bush on that. It is going to be a few people who have high personal core counts that are going to be affected by this.
Yeah.
However, those people are people like Hadbard, people like Blinding Bright, who have the presence in the game as a creator that is the principal value of this game that NQ need to go out into the general public and say, this is why you should play this game. Yeah. And it is those kind of people that these kind of discussions and requests to NQ need to not specifically focus completely on, but be very aware of that they are a level above the general player base.
Yeah. Well, one thing I've been doing is I've said this several times, and I'll say it again on stream. Anybody that's ever bought a ship from me, who has that ship still, if they need to tear that ship down until they get their skills up, I will give them another blueprint for it. They can replace it later once they have their skills up.
Well, that's fine, but what about the shipbuilders who have left the game and those ships that people have bought?
Yeah.
We don't have that choice.
That's true.
Yeah, I really feel like we should be pushing that construct compactification idea, because that is a really a mitigating factor for that exact situation.
Yeah,
I feel like that feature would answer most of the problems we've brought up tonight.
Agreed. I feel like it's a fairly low-hanging fruit solution that handles a lot of the problems that we have.
I know right now on the back end there are some complications with the compactification they have that they're trying to work through.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what they're trying to fix first. If they fix those things, I think that becomes a much more viable option, but they're very leery of implementing it with the larger core ships and something going wrong. Could you imagine compacting your ship you can't get a replacement for and it's gone? You can't get it back?
Yeah,
I'd much
for
rather
sure.
have that than my stuff just going randomly abandoned.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I'm a risk
the
it.
option to have stuff stored with the very rare likelihood of not getting it back, as opposed to the almost guarantee of having it just deleted out of the game. Yeah, I'll go for the first one, thank you.
So, in response to what Blinding Bright said earlier about having to ask for help from the community, can you think of any game in the past that had a community more likely to help you than this one?
No.
Star Wars Galaxies?
To be fair, I never played that one.
As long as you weren't a rebel. But I mean, you understand what I'm saying. I'm not knocking you. I'm not. What I'm saying is this community is amazing, and if somebody needs help, I mean, how many people show up at scrap parties when someone says in general that I just blew everything up? This is a great community for help, and no one should ever feel down on themselves for asking for help in this game. There's people that want both the game and everyone in it to be successful. So,
okay, that's good. And we all know the community will rally round. However, for creators which don't have such a following, which don't have the publicity avenues that the larger creators do, how do they get out to the player community to ask for help?
Yeah, really, for me, in a big way, it's. I'm worried about people like Hagbard in particular, who has specifically said that he doesn't want to go out asking for help. So, like, I don't know. It feels unfortunate, and I don't know if there's a solution, but it feels unfortunate that we're looking at potentially losing major creators like Hagbard because he struggles to ask for help.
I think if they would have implemented a contract system with these cores in the current F8 job helper, it would have helped alleviate some of these problems too.
True.
Looking for 30 cores, year contract, 0 quanta, 5 million quanta, 100 million quanta, need help.
Well, for stuff like that, you have to have, and this is something I believe NQ was talking about a long time ago, was adding RDMS, back in RDMS for timed profile settings and stuff like that. So you could have a RDMS profile that's timed for ship to rent out. You'd have to have something like that. So if I'm going to put a mission up and I'm going to be paying for your core, I need to know I'm going to have your core for that length of time. It's totally doable. Like, I honestly think there has to be solutions that can help these creators without having to kneel on the community and pass down the suck. Like, I feel like if we put our heads together, because we've already put our heads together and thought of crazy things that may or become issues and have figured out solves for them before this has even gone live. So honestly, there's got to be a way besides just, I don't know, asking and begging people for help to deal with the change that NQs bring upon us that largely they could mitigate if they put a little bit of dev time behind it.
Jamjig, I think you need to have a flash sale on the Phantom to celebrate the change. No. But are you kidding? I'm already selling that thing for less than it costs to buy the parts on the market. So I think the price on it's good as it is. The
honestly, I don't think it's like that. I don't think it's that crazy that to have a mega amount of stuff in game that you need more than just you. Like I don't think that's an out of place concept for this game. It's both the intended gameplay and I mean an MMO in particular.
Community.
I hate to say
I don't know,
but
and for this particular community of all communities.
If this was a core count they had implemented when the game started, none of us would care.
Yep.
No, I agree.
They let us have fun. They let us be creative. We pushed the boundaries, and now they're saying, "Hey, look, for server purposes, we need to cut this back." And it's kind of like they gave us 4 toys, and now they have to take one of them away, and we're crying about it. And I hate to say it that way, but it's the truth. If they would have started us off with 3 toys, they wouldn't have cared. We wouldn't care. We would already be adept to it. We would be working with it, and we'd be working with those confines.
Right. If I started paying for the service with those constraints, I wouldn't have a problem for continuing to pay for the service with those constraints.
Honestly, I'm a strong proponent of that we should be getting a full talent reset with this because I don't disagree. I think that having this level of investment in having cores is something that you need to spec towards, basically, right? Like I need to invest my talent points in order to have the 200 cores or whatever that I want to have. That's fair. The problem is I'm not actually really being given the opportunity to do that. They're completely changing the meta of the game. And I have 12 million talent points invested. I could just max out those skills if I had a reset. And then I'd be fine.
Hold on a second. Mega Bossor, can you check your DM in Discord? It's actually kind of important, please. Go ahead. I apologize.
No, it's all good. But yeah, they've basically altered the whole meta of the game to make something that used to be easy to achieve a specialization that takes time, and they're not giving us the tools to basically respec into that specialization immediately, which is leaving people in the lurch.
So core, I think Dank nailed this one on the head. They said NQ in that one blog says we're not going to do a talent spec every time we change something. In the last few months, how much have they changed PvP, mining, auto miners? They even changed the auto miners a month and a half after they did it. I would have totally respect my auto miner counts different with these new calibration charges. Now they're changing core constructs. They've almost completely, in the last 4 or 5 months, changed the core fundamental of this game, and they're saying they're not going to do a talent respect every time we change something. They haven't just changed one thing. They've changed pretty much 90% of the game.
Yeah. They have changed the core meta of the whole game. And I just don't understand why we don't get our talent points back to respec as needed.
Honestly, that's something we could ask for. Say, hey, can you do a full respec? And they might be willing to do that. That's a very simple thing for them to implement.
Not just asking on since you've changed this part of the game. You've changed the game significantly in the last 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
Potentially as that is a fairly drastic one, and you can imagine how many people do not want to go through their talent trees and respec because it's just simply the amount of time that's going to take.
There's a solution to this. So there's a solution like almost Star Wars Galaxies / respec in the console.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. PTS has this system already loaded. You / respec in the console. It gives you your talent points voluntarily.
Yeah.
So those people who want to respec can do so. Those who don't care or don't want to spend the time doing it don't
give
have
you the option for it. That way later down the road if you want to do it. Because the question runs into right now is if we were to ask them for that and they were to give us to it and respec it, and a couple months down the road they do something else and we're like, well, we need another respec. Do you want to keep constantly doing that? Constantly respec it, or do you want to call it out every couple updates, get the respec, or even just let it go until full release? I don't know. That's the question you got to ask.
Maybe put it on like a 3-month timer during beta.
Yeah. How many people here know who Mega Boss Lord is?
Oh, I'm raising my hand like an idiot. No one can see me.
I mean, we pretty much all know who Mega Boss Lord is. I mean, some of the things he's brought to the IC Spaceport and the shows have been just showstoppers. The man, he's never boastful about it, but by far he is one of the best voxelmancers and builders in this game. I couldn't come close to half the crap he does. He's amazing, and even him with the new changes, with the way they respect him, he's like weighing up the changes. I might have enough quarters and tiles. Assuming no more backflips before the update, I might be back. So we might actually be getting Mega Boss Lord back active in the game because of this patch.
Yeah, I mean, there's some cool stuff coming in this patch. Like, I'm really excited for that voxel editor.
Yeah, so the voxel editor and them adjusting the numbers, I think between the two of them, we're going to see, mainly because of the voxel editor, and with the core counts not being so restrictive, I think we're going to see a lot of the people that were looking forward to that coming back to the game.
Yeah.
Voxelmancer servicing. But yeah, Mega Boss Sword's mechanical and the way he does his voxel work to where it looks like legitimate machinery is just wow. I've seen some of his stuff and it's just been jaw-dropping every time.
If Voxelmancers serve Satan, what do Luomancers work for?
Cthulhu, the old one.
The Holy Script is all you need.
The Easter Bunny. Lewis scriptures work for the Easter Bunny.
But I feel bad for Deckard in a lot of ways, and Hugh Deckard, because
for sure,
that man, oh my god.
Be nice to your devs, guys.
Okay, I used to run. I've actually been an admin on multiple Empyrean servers. One of the head admins. We even ran our own Empyrean server and Space Engineers and several other game servers. Conan Exiles and other stuff. ARC servers. And the hardest part I always had with those, and please don't take this as a negative statement. It's not, because I understand where it's coming from. A lot of players, even when they don't play, have a sense of entitlement to a lot of things. And it's not because of the fact that they are bad people. It's just they don't understand really the concept of what goes into the back end of making that game that you're playing, or hosting that game that you're playing, and keeping it to where, you know, every time you go to District 6, you don't crash out of the game. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. I mean, to host even a single solar system with the amount of content in here is a lot of work.
This is huge. This thing is...
Yeah, it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of resources to be able to manage and host something on this scale.
You look at your last two streams for this, you're not doing giveaways. This is simply chat, and you look at the numbers of people that are here that love the game. We want it to be successful, and we understand there are difficulties from their side, and we want to help the best way we can and still make it fun, make it successful, make it everything. If anything, I hope someone like Deckard understands that we're on their side.
we're here to help. I love you, Deckard. I love you. Just keep doing what you're doing. Like, keep your head down, keep a smile on. Like, you got a lot of supporters, and
we love you, bro.
Dude.
Yeah, the extra effort he goes to, I know for a fact he was on very late into the weekend, getting in touch with people about this and the changes they suggested on Friday as well.
Yeah.
So,
well, one thing I was realizing the other day when I was talking to him is the amount of my wife's a public school teacher. She puts in probably 60 to 80 hours a week because she's a high school choir teacher. And she doesn't get paid extra for any of that. She's salary. And he's the same way. So this man has been putting in 16, 17-hour days trying to take care of us. And I think most people don't realize this. He wants this game to succeed even more than we do, because this is his paycheck. This is his livelihood. This puts food on his table. So while we're looking at an entertainment factor, he's looking at I want this to continue because this is my career. So he's very motivated to make sure we are happy and the game is taken care of to the best of his ability.
he's just as equally passionate about the game as we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
The biggest thing
More
for
so.
him is he has a personal stake in the matter. Like, I mean, hardcore personal stake.
Yeah, we could walk away from it tomorrow. It's just voxels. But
I
he
don't
would
think I
lose
could
his
do
job.
that. No.
Yep. That's. Ooh,
I don't know if I could. I'm kind of still addicted to this game.
Building in this game is what keeps me from going insane at the end of every day.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I want this game to succeed. I have been waiting for something as an artist, because like a lot of people in the stream know or might not know. In real life, I'm an artist. I do pastels, painting, and drawing, and I'm working on writing a book. I mean, I'm a creative person, and this game gives me the ability to do that on a regular basis. A lot of times, I can't at home because, with my kids both being autistic, they don't understand the concept that when daddy's trying to draw, he needs to focus. They don't get that. They don't care. Their mind's not there. So it's difficult for me to be able to be in the middle of a piece of pastel work and then have to go away and come back and have my mindset somewhere different, and I lose focus on what I'm doing. Whereas this game, it's very easy for me to pick up things and be creative and just keep going with it. And that's one thing I've been very appreciative for. It's kept me put my head through a few walls, I'll say that.
Yeah, I agree.
Better is give us NPCs. Sorry.
It just kind of turns of dedication. I've played Eve for God knows how long. It's so long I've forgotten how long it was. As soon as I got into DU, I thought, okay, this is a nice distraction. I may play it, a day or two a week. See how it goes. Give it a month, and then I will keep Eve going as my main game. After the first week, I have not been back to Eve since the beginning of beta. That's how much I love this game, and how much creativity and interest it gives me. So, yeah, I agree. The amount of vested interest that we all have in this is probably on par with the devs as well.
Oh yeah, time-wise, definitely. I mean, it's just been, But as far as Eve, I was 03 to 2020, so trust me, I know what you mean. I spent way too much time in that game. What killed that game for me was it going pure pay to win. I mean, that's all that game is now, is pay to win. They took my almost 2 decades of work and made it irrelevant. It used to be. But then again, a lot of things go that way. They used to be. And you get 10 years, 20 years down the road, and you realize it's no longer the game you fell in love with, That's part of the reason why I've been so supportive of this game, even when other people are like, why are you still primarily streaming that? The player base. I mean, this game has an amazing player base. I mean, good God. The players in this game have been amazing, They have been so supportive this past year of my family and I, between getting our home, then losing our home to the hurricane, and still fighting with that, trying to get our home replaced. I've been going through an emotional roller coaster this past year of win and loss, and the viewers and the players of this game have just been a major support system for me, and I don't think they know how much I appreciate that. But they have been, I will stick it out for DU as long as I can, as long as DU's there, just because of the players.
When the what was it? Angry Dad and I really liked the phrase when the schematics update came out. We said we'll be here till the lights go out.
Yeah.
That's my plan.
Yeah, by the way, the hair is growing back on my chest now.
Oh, that's the worst part, when it grows back. Oh, it's so itchy.
But the biggest thing we're looking at coming up right now is we're looking at the collision changes. We're looking at these core number changes. I'm really hoping they iron out the collisions with the elements to where they're a little more uniform and actually make sense. They need to adjust those boundaries before they implement that change. Because if they implement it the way it is now, we're all screwed. And the
I've had to
problem
adjust the
is,
ship 3 times because of it.
yeah, and the problem is it'll be conditionally screwed. One day it'll be fine, the next day it won't.
Exactly.
Or vice versa. So I think they need to iron that out to where it's a little bit more consistent before they implement that.
I had to go through my factory 3 times so far to readjust things.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I click the button, it's changed, it's fine, nothing's registering. Log off. 2 days later, oh, it's colliding again. That's like, what the hell? Like, it's the point where you move it out of place and put it back.
Deluxe has a good
And it's
statement. What if they do, like a lot of games have it where you can use in-game currency to buy a respec token?
I'm amazed they haven't done that yet.
What if we push for that? Time paid respect, talent respects, where like once every so many days, like every 90 days, you can respec.
First respec, $1 million. Second respec, $2 million. Third respec, $4 million.
I would only support paid respec if this was a release game. This is beta.
No,
there is too many significant changes.
Yeah.
To have to pay each time we needed to respec.
I would say though, at least put a time limit on it. Like you could only do it once a month or once every other month, something like that. Because you got some people out there that be hitting that button every 2 days just so they can respec to do a different thing perfectly.
I think yesterday when we were talking about DAX, I think that's a good thing to bring into the game too.
Yeah.
Or is it Dux? I can't remember what it was called.
What is this?
Like Plex and Eve.
Oh.
Axe.
What's it called?
Axe.
Axe.
Dax.
Dax. Okay, I was right the first time then.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get the DAX. What is an anagram of? Digital.
Yeah, Decker. The biggest problem with respec would be related to boosting handling, meaning any advantage that those players had would disappear. So that would mean anybody could, if you could respec too often, it means you could respec, boost your entire factory to perfect, and then respec again out of it. And that would be, I think a 90-day, honestly.
Thank you, Mega.
Timer on respecs would be an ideal allotment.
Well, so this is beta. We do need to do a lot of testing, right?
Yeah.
And I do agree that we should be able to respec, but I would say I don't think 90 days, because people have flown stacked ships since they figured out they could. And we know that, yes, everyone's trying to squeeze efficiency out, but that kind of stuff this community will push it. We know that. So we don't want it to be exploited to use against. We want this to keep going, basically.
Well, I mean, if it was in the live server, I wouldn't say every 3 months. I was only initially proposed that several months ago because, well, it's beta and they do change things rapidly, and we also need to be able to test things. But if this was a live server or published and we weren't in beta, then I would say maybe every year.
Yeah, a lot of games are like that. And so you can respec once a year. That's actually
part
not uncommon.
Or when there's
part of the problem there is that
update.
They've said that there isn't going to be a wipe, right? I mean, they're a little bit waffling on that at this moment, but originally the intent was that there's not going to be a wipe. So we may be in beta now, but their intention is that any skills that we have, any factories that we've built, will persist into the launched game. So legit, if I could just respec one of my characters, become a perfect factory worker, build a factory that makes warp beacons, and then respec off of it, what's the point in having those skills for
have you seen server restarts? Because I built a warp beacon factory. I didn't have the skills. I had someone with level 5s touch it, and then literally 2 weeks later, the entire thing was down from a server restart.
Fair.
Smallville figured out a solution to that.
Oh, thank God.
All you have to do is go to your containers for the stuff that goes into it, pull one item out, it'll switch the code over to insufficient materials, put it back, and it starts right back up.
Now, I'm glad there's a workaround.
Should have said that on this stream. If that gets taken away, I'll be quite upset. It's an unknown server error.
Actually,
It switches it to a error input container. So if you have 10 or 20 machines to restart, it's a lot easier to pull
Actually,
one item versus
Smallville,
start stop.
They were actually very happy about that.
Oh, were they?
Yeah, they were very happy about that because when I was talking to Decker about it, he was like, "This has always been one of his biggest frustrations," and I told him that he was like, "Oh," he said, "That makes me happy. That's awesome. That's beautiful."
Okay, as long as they don't take it away.
No, if anything, they're probably gonna make that the way to get around the unknown server error when the server restarts. Like they're gonna code that into the game.
But yeah, I mean, think about it from her point of view with the whole having somebody else to boost it. That would save her a major headache because I mean, you got to go around and pull one thing out of all the containers, but at the same time, you would have had to go around and stop and restart everything anyway. So the same amount of work, just now you don't have to get it reboosted.
And just answering Decker's concerns, for people that spec into the tier 5 talents, that is still going to be a commodity that people will want and pay for.
Yeah.
You're not going to get the vast majority of the player base specking into level 5. So it's still something valuable. Respecs too frequently, yes, I agree that your concern then is valid.
Yeah. That's why I think 90 days, because 90 days is going to make you think about it. You're not going to want to respec into pure industry and be locked into that for 90 days. I mean, that's going to be something that's a heck of a lot easier just to pay somebody a couple million quanta to come over and hit your factory, give it a love tap,
I would not mind respecking one of my alts into factory. And the problem is that we are allowed to have alternate characters, right? And we do have it. And so with that, that rotation, we could just rotate all our guys every 90 days into something new, and then we run into the same issue.
Yeah, but that's the problem with alts. No matter what you do, you're going to have that problem with alts. I mean, if somebody has enough alts, they're going to train one per factory anyway.
I mean, if I'm paying $30 a month for 3 characters, shouldn't I have that ability in some way? I mean,
yeah.
But yeah,
you should, but but we're talking about it persisting into launch.
Well,
right?
I think in launch it should be a year at most.
I know, but I think his concern, and I think if I'm hearing this correctly, is that the changes that you do now, let's say make money off of factories from being able to spec into it, would carry over persistently into launch of the game into live, which being able to respec every 90 days would allow you to quote unquote game the system. Is that what I'm hearing, or
that
is that how you're...
That is
sort of what I was thinking,
I'm concerned about. Yes.
Okay. I mean, it makes sense. I mean,
I hate to change subject. I need to make a quick statement. Tonight I have had several people who are rather upset because they did not feel that they got automatically pulled into voice chat. I have to keep voice chat on this stream to a minimum as possible. If we get too many people in here, it's going to be too much of an overlap of conversation. Even with 11 people in chat, it's difficult to mitigate and moderate. So if you did not get pulled into voice chat, I'm sorry, but I cannot have 30 people in chat. It just does not work. So please understand that. It's nothing personal. It's nothing against you. It's just I have to keep things moderated, okay?
And we are watching you guys talk and trying to bring those issues up as well. So if you have something to say it in the chat.
And we will try our best to try to address your, read out what you wrote and then, respond to it.
And actually, on that note, I do need to head out. I need to get some sleep. I have more competition tomorrow.
Oh, well, enjoy your dance, dude.
Good luck.
I shall. Thanks for allowing me to be here.
For all of you in
Continue
chat.
the good talk. Fight the good fight. We'll get through this together.
Hey guys,
See
for
you
all
later,
of you
Storm.
in chat, make sure you all wish Storm still a good luck. Him and his wife are doing a dance comp this weekend.
She competed today. I have another student tomorrow.
Awesome. So
Good luck, Happy
Yeah.
Feet. We know you can do it.
show
All
him
the best.
some love and give him that support, guys. Have a good night,
Later.
Storm still. Break both your legs.
I don't know if he minds or not, but I think I want to call him. That's his new name for me. It's Happy Feet.
And I know I've had a few people ask, it's because Silva's always been an active member of some joining my streams and stuff. She's been extremely busy with her new job and also not feeling well, so that's the reason why she hasn't been here.
Yeah, I believe she's had COVID or something.
Yeah, she's sick as a dog right now, so and not feeling well. She's resting, and I hope she feels better soon. It'd be nice to have the normal Silva boisterous personality back.
I love the new times where I can chat with at least a moderator of a show.
Now, but yeah, I'm being serious though. As builders out here, if you have ships and stuff that you build, like I know one of mine, like the Manta, it's a blue ship with the 4 medium containers. I have sold over 200 blueprints for that ship. So I put it out there to anybody. If you have to take down one of my ships, come to me. I will give you a blueprint so you can replace it later once you get your skills up. I know it doesn't help with the ships that can't be replaced because those are gone. But if you don't have to worry about taking down my ship, it gives you more freedom to keep those ships. So,
yep, sure.
Yeah, and I think other people will be more than willing to do the same thing. Anything we can do to help the community mitigate any losses until they get their skills up, we're all more than happy to do that. I mean, we're here to support the game. So,
especially anyone that's an owner of any of the Hammerhead, Forge Strike, or Tomahawk ships that have like 8 cores with all the different pods. I'm more than happy to replace blueprints. Also working on stuff that may be a little bit more singular core based. But yeah.
Balling, I am actually doing the sketches for the new Wasp design, so I will be starting to work on that probably this week, okay? I know you've been asking, but it will be coming this week. Every night, every stream, Balling Toss is on about the new Mega Wasp. It's a racing ship I designed. He's been wanting a newer version of it.
So just answering Briganti, yeah, we've talked about that, and it's something we will be putting to them to give us just that bit of extra time.
Yeah, I mean, we can, if that's something y'all want, we can take that to Decker and say, hey, look, can you give us 60 days instead of 30? And I know that's a lot to ask, but just give us that extra 30 days to work with the skills so that way it's not as detrimental to your active players. Because the other people that aren't active, whether it's 30 or 60 days, when it's over, it's over. You know, if they don't come back within 30 days, they're not coming back. But it would prevent it from being as detrimental.
Well, I mean, in theory, they could do what they did with Auto HQ and Auto Core. So auto level skills up to personal maximum or org maximum if they have one org they're super legged of, and then assign cores based on that.
Yeah.
But it goes back to what we were saying about respec. Some people may not want to persist in those talents. Simply because they decide, well, I don't want to support an org. The 100 personal cores is plenty enough for me, or even less. So they might decide to use those talent points elsewhere. So the auto respecking, I wouldn't be a particular fan of.
Well,
but I get where you're coming from. Yeah.
That though too. Oop.
Yeah, I think the hardest problem we're gonna have is, it's kind of like herding cats. No matter what they do, somebody's gonna be ticked off. It's a business model. You can't make everybody happy, and then they're probably trying to figure out how can they do this with the least percentage of raging players.
So my microphone was hiccuping there for a second. There's a solution to the whole, well, what if I don't want to respec? And it goes into quite literally, like, if you don't log in after 6 weeks of Panacea, auto respec those freed up slots into slots to keep cores, and then auto HQ those cores basically. If you do log in before then, do not auto respec those characters and then essentially assign those cores, because you're an active player, and if you're within this time, then you get to choose. Otherwise, they could have it so it could hopefully keep those that do come back later from losing everything that they might care about, or at least the majority of their stuff.
I just wonder how the implementation of that would go.
I mean, they did it for the auto HQing.
Yeah, but that's a tile. That's a territory.
Right, well, right, but they tie themselves to the constructs on those tiles.
Yeah.
You would just tie the constructs to the tiles, and basically, are those the tiles and the constructs on them a part of the org? Are they personally owned? If so, train up those skills. I mean, it'd take a little bit of dev work, but I think it's doable.
Heaven's Legacy, the only way right now to guarantee that, you know, if your subscription wasn't paid, that you'd be fine, is to move your stuff to Sanctuary. And there's still some risk in that in regards to it being under org name. So, right now, I think it'd be kind of an iffy time, but I think after the patch goes through, and once you have your private cores buffed up to 100, taking a break really shouldn't be an issue. You're going to be gone for several months. I would recommend moving everything to Sanctuary and storing it there, so it's definitely safe. But it's going to be one of those things that, as a player, it's going to be your responsibility to mitigate that.
Yeah, you've got to kind of think of it. I mean, it's difficult to kind of make the real world comparison, but if you knew you were going to be away from your home for a month, you literally wouldn't just walk out the door. You would turn off the lights, you'd turn down the heating, you'd pack stuff away, you'd empty the fridge or the freezer, switch off all the electrics. You'd do things to make sure that essentially you'd have a house to come back to. That kind of mentality is no different here. If you know you're going to be away, you'll need to make preparations for it. Yes, we understand that there's going to be real life and your circumstances can change very suddenly, so you may not have time to make those changes. So there's got to be a certain level of kind of pre-preparation, and having the extensive personal core limitations goes a long way to helping that in the first place.
And I hate saying this, maybe it's just me, but I mean, I was gone for 3 months this past year. I mean, I lost my home. I wasn't in a mindset to stream, I wasn't in a mindset to deal with the game. I didn't log into DU for quite a while. And to be honest, if I had come back at the end of that 3 months and my stuff would have been gone, I really wouldn't have been too upset. I mean, it's not... When I chose to be gone for 3 months, I chose to make the game not a priority. And the stuff I was dealing with in real life that made me leave the game so abruptly was a lot more important than the game. So if something's so traumatic or so major that you have to leave right that second and you don't have the time to mitigate it, that means that stuff should have been enough a priority in your life to make losing stuff in a game not really an issue. You know, and
much.
But
counter to that, like what happens when someone gets sick and it's out of their control and they can't get back to their computer, but they're just at a place in their life where they can't do much else besides play games, and they get back to it. And their favorite game is Dual Universe, and they lose all their stuff.
I had a tree chop my house in half. I had the eye of a hurricane go over my home. I lost everything. I get what severity means, and what I'm saying is that was a severe enough situation that whether or not I lost stuff in the game, I didn't care. You know, I left for a good reason, and if I lost everything in the game, I don't care. Because that was a real life scenario that was far more important than the game.
You got 10 people in chat.
Yep, exactly.
Pull Lathian down here.
If you want to, go for it. But yeah, it's just, you know, sometimes real life happens, and you can't do nothing about it. You can't plan for it,
No,
you
I
can't.
get that.
Yeah.
It's just this is the only MMO I've ever played where I can't take an extended break of time with ease, and that's kind of frustrating for me.
What do we got?
I mean, they had from the beginning the whole point of the game was player driven and everything. There was a lot of things that they were, and we know coming in as beta and alpha. I mean, I've been in since alpha. Things are going to change. That's part of testing a game. Things are going to change.
Back at limit again.
What, Drex?
Trying to keep an average around top 12 people in chat before
Okay.
it doesn't get crazy. So Resource isn't talking, so he might just get moved again.
Oh, Resource is here. Resource is always here. He just maybe not here.
So, for those of you in the stream who are wondering, the only people that can actually jump into this chat and out of this chat freely are the people with a moderator tag. Nobody else in the Discord is able to jump into and out of this chat freely. So, there's no special privileges to get that. Either you're a moderator, a host, or you don't get to do it.
And for the moderators, we're just trying to keep chat uncluttered and clear, so when people have something to say, they can feel free to say it and not get constantly interrupted. And
Yeah, Panda, I understand the deployment thing, but I'll be honest with you, man. If one of my members came to me and said, "Hey, I'm being deployed in 24 hours, can you make sure my stuff don't..." I would have their back. I mean, I've actually had one guy, this wasn't in this game, this was in Conan. He's like, "Hey, I've got to, he was military, and he was getting deployed, and it was actually a 12-hour turnaround on his deployment because of what he did. He didn't have a choice. So he's like, "Hey, can you log in real quick?" I logged in. In a matter of 30 minutes, he passed everything he had over to me. I locked it all down and put it on safekeeping until he came back. So
that's the advantage of being in an org. We're talking about having your own cores, and some people want to be on their own, but if they're in an org, they can have people that have their back.
Well,
so
that's another situation. If you want to be alone in a game that's built around community, there are certain responsibilities that come with that. If you want to be alone with no ties to anybody else, that comes with certain risk. If something happens to you, just like in real life, ain't nobody can do anything about it.
Maybe we might want to talk to them about expanding the possibilities of what a home tile is.
Yeah.
Creating a home tile or sanctuary tiles. Anything on sanctuary or home tile would be have under an automated protection thing. I don't know.
I think one thing would be good. Okay, just hear me out real quick, Craig. What if they reduced the headquarter tiles to one tile, but changed the parameters of the headquarter tile to where anything on that tile would never go unclaimed, but you only get one tile that way?
Isn't that kind of the way it is now?
No, it's
5
not.
tiles?
No, it's not it.
Okay, I guess, how is that different than the headquarters now?
The headquarters now, if you...
saves you taxes.
The way the headquarters tiles now means that you don't lose the tile. However, if you're, like with the new core count crap, if you're not here during the core count crap, you would lose things that were above and beyond the cores. Things like that. So there are
not
other
even
things.
above and beyond. Your skills get reset. So
That's what I'm saying.
Rewards.
Above and beyond your personal, what you have at that time. So if you only have base skills at that time, then you're going to lose everything extra. So if it was a headquarter tile, anything on that tile, one tile would be safe until you come back to mitigate and deal with things.
Isn't that called your sanctuary tile?
It is. Yeah. But I think, actually, no, it would still affect the tile.
We're
the
just
way it currently
discussing
is
possibly.
now, it would still affect sanctuary tiles. But yeah, no, it would be. I would love it if my HQ tiles could be cold stored.
Yeah. That's what I was trying to get there is it would actually help out and might even help change this, the cold storage problem. If you could,
honestly, if they just made your sanctuary tile like that, it'd be fine. If you could have a sanctuary tile that was,
yes, that's probably the easiest solution since everyone gets sanctuary style.
I mean, how many people actually go to sanctuary? I avoid that place like a bad habit. I go there when I need to access my warehouse, and that's it. Other than that, I do not go to sanctuary. I hate that planet. It's 1G of gravity, but you don't get up to where you can actually use your space engine to like 6,500. It's a pain in the butt to get off of, and then you kind of wait. And they're not really good for resources either. They're really just good for storage.
What?
I'm gonna go there and dig it out.
Serapis, what do you think about the way the NQ has changed their posture towards their players from alpha to beta? Do you feel like there's a level of respect being demonstrated going both directions, or do you feel like that somehow the relationship got damaged?
I think in some ways the relationship got damaged, and I think in some ways it's at fault of both sides. I think that early on there was a lot of lack of communication, especially when JC was in control. He kept a very tight reins on what they could and could not say. Like, very tight. And it was frustrating to a lot of the NQ staff members, I know that, because they weren't able to express the things they wanted to, because he was so OPSEC on everything. And that caused a drift between the players and the staff. Whereas when we were in Alpha, because of the NDA and the Alpha, they were more free to talk about things. Now, at the same time, I think there's also been a downfall in communication between the devs and the players because of the very acidic response that they've gotten in the main Discord, the DU Discord, in a lot of things. I mean, people automatically respond with jumping to calling them names, insulting them, degrading them. People were very abusive to the NQ staff members in a lot of ways. And that's one thing I've tried to avoid to this. And they have gotten to the point now where they're afraid to participate in a lot of things that they used to be happy to, because they're terrified they're going to get cornered and they're going to be verbally abused or pushed in a position to where they look like an idiot because they're not allowed to say things.
I mean, in Alpha, it was not uncommon for a developer to contact me and say, hey, Resource, we have, our objectives are this, and, we're thinking this, but what do you think? And I would say, well, okay, if you do that way, there's going to be these unintended consequences. But if you did it this other way, there may be unintended consequences that I don't see, but I think it would be a better solution. And they would go and vet various solutions to various groups. And we'd end up with I guess I feel like we had better results at the end.
Yeah. I think part of the problem now is every time they've tried to do this, as far as communication goes with the players, either they pull a small group of players, which, whether you like it or not, a small group of players is never going to be able to foresee every possible outcome. You know what I'm saying? There's going to be issues they're going to have and things like that are unexpected. But a lot of the players that they try to work with or talked with have either just not done what they were supposed to do, or they would get into these chats where they had privileged information that were, they're not supposed to discuss, and then they go out and just start flapping their jaws about crap that they're not supposed to be discussing. So that kind of undermined the integrity of the situation, where they were trying to discuss things that were supposed to be kept until it was ready to be released. And a lot of their attempts to do those things have backfired on them. And I don't think people realize that whenever you enter into a group conversation where they tell you, we need you to keep this, secured, that's important. And they're doing that not necessarily because of keeping it secret, but because they might change drastically. And if you go flapping your jaw about the crap, people are going to get all in an uproar about stuff that's not even set in stone yet. So it's kind of bit them in the butt a lot of times in regards to now versus alpha. Whereas alpha, you had a smaller number of players that were very largely personally vested in the game. Now you have a larger group of players that aren't as heavily vested in the game and care more about what they get to say they know than actually contributing to the solution.
I definitely have seen that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that have been in these closed groups. Because I'm in one of them, and you will never hear me discuss the things that I'm told not to discuss in that group. And it's because I know when it's coming, it might be completely different than what we're discussing at that time.
I mean, it's tough because there have been large groups, who grew because it was deemed that the leadership of those groups knew stuff that could that if you knew it too, you would have an advantage. And
well, I mean, just recently IC had a meeting, and I hate to call him out, but they were basically advising people to eliminate your financial assets and get items because there might be a quanta wipe coming.
I don't know what group you're talking about. I've never heard of that group before.
So I mean, I hate to say that, but that's not cool. Even if you had an inclination of that possibility, even coming down the road, and see now, the worst part is there are people that acted on that are now having to deal with cores and assets being reduced, not the opposite.
In fairness, a lot of people knew about that circumstance possibly becoming.
I know, but I'm saying you should never advise anybody to act on anything like that until you actually see a dev blog saying that this is coming, because even if it's talked about in a secure chat, it might not be for months down the road or longer if it's in one of the testing groups.
Mm-hmm.
So to act upon things now based on something that's might happen, that has been slightly discussed in a testing group, that might not even happen, could screw your members.
Heck, I tell people don't even act on it after it goes live, because there's a chance NQ is going to renege on it and finally cave.
Exactly. I mean, that it's so to try to pre-plan and act on things ahead of time, I would never advise my members to do that. I have too much respect for them. That would screw them, especially with this scenario. Oh my God, could you imagine?
If they wipe out Goshard's money, grr.
Well, we've also got to remember we're in this kind of weird situation where technically it's both alpha and beta.
Mm-hmm.
We've got public access, but core game systems are still being built, created, and tweaked.
If you look at the login screen, it says beta 1.
It does, but we've still got this kind of some of the mentality of alpha, where it was a tightly controlled group of players with privileged access to the devs, because that's the way alphas need to be, to make sure that the game is being built in a particular way and it's stable and it is a good game system.
Yeah.
The problem with this kind of binary situation we've got now is some of that mentality has been carried over with the original core testing group, and privileged information leaks that shouldn't, in the way you've been saying, affecting the way people play the game, giving people the advantage, taking people down the wrong road, and it leaks into the general populace of the game through whatever media, and it sets up this dichotomy of some people are privileged, they've got ideas of potentially what direction the game is. Why isn't that being given out more to the general player base? It creates this low-level antagonistic situation that people who are not in the know and suddenly get blindsided by some of these large changes, and they think, well, how were we not aware of these with the kind of the pipelines that we know are still available to a limited player group?
Yeah.
And that kind of backfires back up all the media, back into the devs when they try and engage with the general population in things like the main Discord and things like that.
Well, it also causes distrust for the devs too.
Exactly, yeah.
Major distrust for the devs, and that's not fair to them. I mean, they were trying to get player feedback so that situation wouldn't happen, and trying to have a player council to figure out things, and then, like I said, it just blew up in their face because the players that were involved couldn't keep their mouth shut.
Well, there's a point in time, at least from some of the people I know that were in it, there was time they would suggest things, and Q would still not really follow the general consensus at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like now more than ever they're starting to listen, and I feel like their internal communication between their employees within the company is somehow better now. It feels like they're more responsive. Like, I've had a lot better chat support. Like, when I've had some major things happen in the game when I need to get fixed, they've been very helpful in there. Compared to like 6 months ago or 8 months ago, it's completely different ballgame. So like, as much as like I feel like as a player base who've been knocked around, they're in a tough spot because they're trying to have a live service as a beta. They're trying to build a game. They're basically building the car as it's driving down the road.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to do. So I give them a lot of credit and a lot of slack.
Cool.
And I'm hoping we can keep the communication with them on both sides going.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to think about it. What we're going through right now, if you really look at the history of gaming, the beta that we're going through right now is actually more similar to what a beta for a game would have been 15 years ago.
Yep. We test things out, give them feedback, they change it.
Yeah, I mean, 15 years ago, even games that you paid to play, they were out in beta. This was what you expected. Nowadays, the concept of beta, thanks to games like Ark and Conan, where it's beta release and we're gonna go full live soon. But
it's mostly done.
Yeah, no.
But this acts like more of an alpha.
Yeah, most companies now use beta as a label to put on a game to basically say it's full release, but in case there's an error, oh well, we're covered as beta.
Right. And we're just using this time to ramp up marketing.
Yeah, whereas this game is treating beta like it would have been treated in 10, 15 years ago when they had, a proper beta. Alpha was extremely closed, small groups, major constant changes every couple weeks, constant wipes. Beta was occasional wipes with major changes, not as often. And then when you go into full release, you've had a larger player base that's been able to iron out all the wrinkles, and you're ready for full release. That's what it used to be, the model for game development. And because of marketing schemes and people using that beta label to get them out of liability for anything, it's kind of ruined that term. I have never played Satisfactory.
It's quite fun.
It's a good one.
Factory building game.
It's one of those games that feels like it'd be too tedious.
No, it feels like I wish the factory system was kind of like that in DU. Like, it's very satisfying.
I spent hours building a factory in Satisfactory, and I looked at it in DU and went, no.
Satisfactory?
Yeah.
Sorry.
But
no, I left the door open.
I'm an odd gamer. I take that back. I have played it once. League of Legends.
Mm-hmm.
I've played League of Legends once. I walked away from it and I'm like, yeah, this is not my thing. Minecraft. Never been interested in Minecraft. I've been gaming since the 80s, and I'm sorry, I spent my time playing 8-bit games. I have no interest in playing 8-bit games now. Yes, I know that textures, they look pretty, but it's still pixelated blocks. I have no interest in that.
Minecraft is a good game, though.
Yeah, this whole new enthusiasm for 8-bit side scrollers that have been coming out on Steam. People, it's all the rage, the indie games and crap. I'm like, that was my childhood. I don't want to relive it. No. You know, I paid my dues for those games, and it was the only option we had. I want, realistic 3D environments, high-end technology. I want the things that I've built up to. You know? I don't want to take a step back in technology. I want the good stuff.
Boiled.
Personal opinion that Factoria is better than Satisfactory. Jam, I'm the therapist. Thank you.
Both is spoiled.
But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm odd like that. I'm also one of those type of people that I will play the same game until I can't play that game anymore. There's been a lot of situations where I've played games and I end up being the last person by myself at the game, but still playing for years after everybody else has left. And that's just kind of the way I've gotten used to it being. Hell, in Eve, Eve Online is a really good example. In Eve, I have gone, at the time I played, I went through probably 30 or 40 different groups of people in that game that were in my personal org. There was at one point, I was the only American in my org. The rest of them were all British, and I was the CEO. And that was just because that was the time of game I played. My wife hated it because I picked up their accent a lot. I'd get off my game and be talking like I'm a Brit. She's like, "You shut up and stop that shit." But I think if we want the devs to be able to listen to us better, the biggest problem we're going to have is the toxic people in the main Discord. And if we want to be able to be heard, well-constructed posts that are easy to read and well set up in the forums are the best way to do it. Streams like this, whether it's me hosting or somebody else hosting, are a good way to do it. So where we keep things appropriate and respectful, and also keep in mind the ramifications and the actual what it takes to implement the changes that we're asking for.
Well, the issue with that though is a lot of people don't have an inkling to what it would be to implement some things. There's a lot of great ideas, and sometimes they may seem easy on the surface, but they can be relatively difficult to actually implement under the hood. But yeah, 100%. Like I've seen a lot of toxic communities. I would say DU on the whole is not too bad. That being said, last year there was, I believe, one of their employees that was doxxed, and they were a community manager, and they've since left the company. And that's not cool. Like, when I saw all that going down, I was just shaking my head the entire time. I think the community has gotten a lot better since then, but there are definitely still some toxic elements here and there, and we have to do our best to, as a community, push back against it, and hopefully NQ can, push some of that out as well if it's needed and when it's needed.
Yep.
The difficulty with the difficulty with it is we're a relatively small community. We only have 2 or 3 main general public forums. We have the forums, we have the DU Discord, and we have the various social media streams, which means a lot of the flashback gets focused onto those, and so it's very public. And certainly when NQ ask for feedback on their changes in the forums specifically, and they open one thread for that feedback, that's obviously where everything's going to be focused. So you get a lot of vitriol going on in those, and it feeds on itself because it can't be filtered out, because that is the only outlet for that kind of feedback or those kind of people venting that we have. So it's very difficult to control. Places like this, where we have a group of people that kind of been invited, it is a public stream, so other people will come in as it gets more publicity. And it's not technically moderated, but we are asking for a level of respect.
Oh, Drax has a big ban hammer.
Yes, I do.
He's just waiting to use it.
Yeah, actually, we have 2 moderators in chat, Smallville and Drac.
Yep. I will not hesitate to pop people out of.
I'm actually planning on adding 2 more additional moderators. I've been looking at trying to find 2 other people that are somebody that are not in my core group that I feel like I can work with, that are somebody
wake up Shanzi.
That I can get in here for this time frame to help with that, because moderating the stream is actually a lot of work, because I also have to go moderator over my stream too, because they have to be able to moderate the chat.
Yep, he moderates the moderators.
And yeah, I'm not the type of person. Not many people have ever actually seen me angry. I don't get angry a lot. I don't get impatient a lot. I get a little frustrated sometimes, but you never see me act out on it. I'm not the type of person to lose my patience easily. After dealing with my kids, I love my kids to death, but 2 autistic kids is trying. There's not much you can do to me that's going to be worse than what they do to me on a daily basis. My son's new thing is walking up and smack me in the back of the head every time he gets frustrated. So now we're dealing with him, trying to deal with him and hitting. And I'm sorry, but there's nothing more infuriating than a 13-year-old hitting you in the back of the head.
You've got a lot of patience.
Yeah, the patience is there, but when it comes down to it, if somebody is being disrespectful, rude, cursing, or belligerent, I'll also be the first person to nip them at the knees. There's actually a role in this Discord set up that has not had to been used yet. That's called muted. So if somebody's like really, really being belligerent, they lose the Nobian role for a certain amount of time, and they're added to the muted role, which means they can read, they can add reactions, they can even listen, but they can't talk, they can't text, they can't do anything else.
If I ever had to use the ban hammer, I can assure everybody in the channel and chat that if I ever had to boot you, I will boot you, and I will feel sorry about it.
Yeah, softy.
But
So is that my chance to bring up how we should implement NFTs into Dual Universe?
Oh God!
Yikes! Actually,
ban.
Legit. I would. Okay, so Serapis and I had talked for a while about setting up a museum in Dual Universe where real life artists that are Novians could, get their artwork approved by NQ, and then we'd have it available in the museum. And I always thought it would be amazing if we could have some way where, I guess now with the DRM or whatever, maybe we could have like some sort of like DRM screen. They'd have to be able to give us a way to DRM artwork on a screen. But I thought it would be really cool. That would be sort of a way of doing a Dual Universe NFT, right?
I was thinking like I want to be able to make my Battleship Gold, turn it into an NFT file that I can then put on the blockchain, and you can make some money, I can make some money, and you can get a cool ship.
Okay, for the noobs in here, I'm gonna ask the question, partially because I don't know what it is either, but what is the NFT?
An NFT is artwork that is tied to blockchain, where you can buy the rights to that artwork. And then you own it. You've basically bought that digital asset.
Well, so, you bought rights to access that digital asset. You didn't buy my IP.
Yeah, I've always described NFTs as you have bought the receipt to the thing you want.
Yes, correct.
It's more like a print, right? So you didn't buy the original, but you bought a print. So you have your numbered print that is tied into the blockchain, and you can resell that print, right? And that's why I thought it would be really cool is if they extended DRM into DU, we could actually do sort of an NFT in Dual Universe, where we could actually license our real life artwork for people to decorate their houses with, or their ships, or whatever.
Oh man, that was a
No,
hard
God,
so I hate to
don't
say
give them
this,
ideas that give
but
them money, but take away dev time from the game.
we are starting
Yeah.
to get off subject tonight, guys. And
Yeah, we are getting
it's-
off subject.
It has been 2 hours. That means we need to start calling a draw for the night. So I've been talking to a few people, and I think what we're going to do is we're going to do this every Saturday night. So every Saturday night we'll have the DU think tank, and it's just going to be to kind of discuss things that are going on in the game, discuss changes that are coming, issues that we're seeing as players, things like that, and that way we can have a regular weekly flow of kind of a structured thing to go to NQ.
Sounds great.
I like it.
Saturday nights is the most potential to get people in here with us, so I think we'll go with that. For any of you who've noticed, on these streams I don't have anything promoting my org. I don't have my tips things up. I don't have any of my normal things that pop up in there for raffles or any of that crap. There's none of that crap in here. And this is the reason why I also held it in a different Discord other than my Discord, because it's important that this remains, separate. So, we're going to be doing this every Saturday night from now on. This week we had twice because of the major changes, but it will be every Saturday from now on, okay?
It's great. I would really like it if NQ would feel comfortable in giving us talking points to discuss, not talking points, but points to discuss. And that way they could float ideas, and we could have a clear, open, transparent, fully public discussion.
I agree with that.
Yeah, that's something I've already been working up to in regards to that. Them bringing things to us that are potential upcoming changes to discuss in stream, and before it gets to the point, that way they can have this kind of like a player council, discuss things openly and get player feedback from a larger group. And I'm hoping they'll take us up on that.
That would be
just
awesome.
give us a short list of possible things.
Yeah, or even
discussion
like,
point.
here's some things that we need to address in the game. Here's what we were thinking about doing. What do you guys think? Like they did in Alpha. That would
be smart. Then they don't have to make a dedication we're going to make this change versus we're thinking about changing something. Here's how we might do it. That could have kept the whole backlash that just happened this past week from ever happening in the first place.
Yep. Okay.
From a dev perspective, it could save money for NQ too, so they don't have to rewrite code or change things in the back end.
Okay, so let's go ahead and call it a night, guys. We're gonna raid Angry Dad. And we're gonna get off here for the night. I will see you all. I don't stream Sundays, so I'll see you all Monday. Back to my normal stream, and then we'll be back here for another DUT or Do You Think Tank next week. And we are sticking with a DUT name because it's kind of funny.
Nice.
So,
All right, good night, guys.
next Saturday, join us for DUT. I'll be back Monday night streaming my normal gameplay. Y'all have a great night. Thank you for hanging out, everybody in voice. And I will see everybody Monday.
Yep.
Thank you,
Night, everyone.
Hey, everyone.
Resource
See you
House.
later.
Thank
Night.
you.
Ready
Good night.
for the holy shit.
And I do
Yep.
have to leave voice chat pretty quickly. I got to deal with a kid issue.
All right, have a good one. We'll talk to you later, Serapis.
There we go.
Oh, And boom. We're in
And
Angry Dad.
progress. Yes.
Okay, hold on.